Great.
Okay, well, welcome everybody to tonight's program on nutrition for cyclists. I'm Fred Leffel. People from the SIG know me. I know we have some people here from the SIG, the SIG, the SIG, and maybe even some others. We're really excited about tonight. We're very lucky that we have Reyna Franco. And Reyna is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, certified specialist in sports dietetics. And equally important, she is a longtime member of the club. She is, I think, an original graduate of the SIG, the original program, although she must have done it when she was like in junior high school.
Yeah, maybe.
And a long time leader in the SIG. So not only does she know her stuff in terms of the nutrition, but she also understands how it applies to our needs as cyclists. So with that, I'm going to disappear. And oh, by the way, we will have questions at the end. So save your questions for the end. Okay, take it away, Reyna.
Great. Thank you, Fred. I'm so excited to talk about nutrition. And this is I love doing this because this is the reason why I went into nutrition, is to help people who enjoy doing sports do the best they can. And as you see from the title, it's sports nutrition for peak performance and energy. And during, I was at the SIG this weekend and we were talking about this and someone asked me, will you teach me how not to bog? It's like, of course. So I just added a little, or how not to bog, because if you follow what I talk about today, you'll learn how to eat well. So when you do your rides, you feel energized, you have the fuel you need, you won't get tired during the ride. You might get a little fatigue, muscle fatigue, of course, but you won't be hungry, and the food is going to get you to your destination. So come on, there we go. So one thing I just want to clarify is a lot of people don't know the difference between what a nutritionist is and a registered dietitian. So real quickly, a nutritionist could be anybody. All of you listening to me right now could call yourselves nutritionists, and that's in the state of New York. Now, in the state of New York, like I said, you can hang up a shingle, talk about nutrition, but if you want to talk to somebody who has at least a bachelor's degree in nutrition, goes through an internship program, then passes a very rigorous exam, and then keeps up with continuing education credits, that's a registered dietitian, and that's the person you want to talk to. And then we have certain specialties. So for example, I'm a certified specialist in sports dietetics. So we talk to a person who has that qualifications, who knows all about sports nutrition. But just a little on the side, if you do want to talk to anybody about nutrition, go to a registered dietitian or a registered dietitian nutritionist. They're both the same, but not just a nutritionist because you don't know enough about their background. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to learn just how to start out. What is our base nutrition? We're going to talk about pre-exercise nutrition, what you're going to eat before you go out, what to eat while you're exercising, and then how to eat afterwards. So I talk a lot about balanced nutrition. And what does that mean? It means eating healthfully to meet your goals, whatever they might be. So we all have different goals. Some people might want to lose weight. Some people want to maintain their weight. Some people want to gain weight. You might want to improve your athletic performance or your endurance. You might want to improve your energy levels. And lastly, maybe you have some clinical issues that need to be looked upon, like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, prediabetes, diabetes, be a variety of issues like that. And you have to think about your nutrition in those terms too. So we all have different nutrition needs, and they're going to be based on the type of exercise we're going to redo. So this group is primarily doing different types of SIG, so we're bike riding. But in addition to that, maybe some of you are doing some weight training or running. How often are you exercise? Are you doing the training rides in the morning? How long is are you on the weekends? Are you going out for 2, 3, 4 hours, which is what we generally do in these SIG rides? We're out 4 hours, 5 hours. So something to consider, are you doing cross training during the week? And what's your body size? So a 100-pound person is going to need a lot less calories and fuel than a 180-pound person. And what are your weight goals? As I mentioned before, some people might want to lose weight, some maintain, some gain weight. Your age. So depending upon your age, that's going to impact specifically protein needs. Are you pregnant? Or do you want to get pregnant? That's going to impact your nutrition needs. And again, any type of medical concerns you might have. So we talk about starting with a healthy base. And I think we all, we know about this. I'm going to go through this really quickly. But if you want to ride well, you have to start out with that healthy base. It's kind of like, the training that you're doing to do the SIG. Even before you started the SIG, maybe you did some bike riding or some cross training to get that base before you started the actual SIG. So number one, food is our fuel. So that is so important to know. And the main source of our fuel is coming from carbohydrates. So carbs are our friend. And the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and the American College of Sports Medicine recommends 3 to 10 grams per kilogram body weight per day. And that goes up to 12 grams per kilogram body weight per day for extreme and prolonged activities. So to convert your weight to kilograms, you take your weight and you divide it by 2.2. And that's how you know how many kilograms of carbs you need. So for example, if you are doing ultra endurance events, you might be going up to 12 grams per kilogram body weight of carbs per day. For most of us, we're probably somewhere between 3 and 10. It all depends upon the frequency of your exercise, the intensity, and what your goals are. And the best sources of those carbs are whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. We also get some from beans and legumes. So whole grains, this is here a list of some wonderful whole grains. Some of them you might not have tried yet, but please do. There we go. And why are carbs and whole grains important? Well, not only do they provide carbohydrates, but they also provide us B vitamins, iron, magnesium, selenium, and fiber. So we need fiber just to keep our body regular and for the anti-inflammatory. So that's something else to consider. Eating whole grain, fruits, and vegetables, it reduces inflammation. So, something we've got to be concerned about is reducing inflammation to reduce pain that we might have from all this riding and exercising we're doing. But the other thing is eating our fruits and vegetables. We want a rainbow of fruits and vegetables. And why is that? Well, they contain a variety of carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber. And we need all that for our energy and health. So, and then we got protein. Protein is important for muscle growth and repair. And how much protein do we need? Athletes, everybody here I'm talking to right now, we need about 50% more protein than sedentary adults. And the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and the American College of Sports Medicine recommends 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram body weight per day of protein. And what you want to do is you want to spread this protein evenly throughout the day. That's really important. You don't want to have a breakfast that doesn't have protein and then load up on protein at dinner time and maybe just have a salad at lunch. So make sure you get that protein in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So quality proteins include lean meats, poultry, fish, eggs, dairy, tofu, nuts, seeds, legumes, beans, and then fat. So just because we're exercising, and you might be exercising every day or very frequently, that doesn't mean that we could eat a high fat diet and say, oh, the exercising reduces my risk of diseases. Nope. High fat food is not going to eliminate that risk. So you definitely want to be concerned about the types of fats you're eating. So our goal is to get anywhere between 20 to 35% of our total calories from fat, and less than 10% of the total fat should be from saturated and trans fats. So when you read the food label, watch out for anything that says partially hydrogenated oils. Those are your bad fats, your trans fats. And then you want to read your labels to make sure you can identify the sources of fats. So you want to stay away from, like I said, saturated fats and trans fats. The monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, those are your good fats. Those are okay to have, but stay away from the bad fats. And fats can be good for us. They could be good for our heart, for our brain. So these are just examples of healthy fats like olive oil, avocado oil, sunflower oil, nuts, seeds, fatty fish, avocado. All right, so that was our base. And it's very simple. Basically what I said is, have your carbs, have protein, have fats in the right proportion. Lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds. We start with that. And then if we look at this picture here, this is what our healthy plate should look like. Basically, this is for just regular weight management. Early in the season, this might even be before we start the SIG. You want half your plate to be fruits and vegetables, about a quarter to be whole grains, another quarter will be your lean protein. So if this is all you take away from this talk today, this picture, you're already on a good start. We want to limit our fats, maybe a teaspoon of fat. We want to stick to healthy fats. To drink, we're looking at water, like seltzers, coffees, teas. Use flavors for your food. Now, if you're looking to feel weight management, as you notice here, there's a little bit less carbs and a little bit more protein, but we're not eliminating carbs. We're just reducing it a little bit for weight management. Now, moderate training. This is probably where we're at right now for most of this. I think for most of us, where we're riding more frequently. We're doing a long ride now in the SIG. Maybe you're out there training, bike riding twice a week, maybe 3 times a week during the week. Maybe you're doing some cross training. But the rides are getting longer and harder. So this is where we want to maybe up those carbs a bit. And that's what you see here. Your carbs are increasing. And you notice the fruit is now on the side and not, instead of having half your plate fruits and vegetables, you're still having lots of veggies, but you're having more carbs. And that's the big difference here, is it's probably the same amount of fruits and vegetables, just more carbohydrates. Then this is for, let's say you're going to be racing or you're training for an endurance event. You're going to be out there doing a brevet, an activity where you're going to be out all day long or maybe multiple days. You're doing either a trip or back-to-back races. This is where we really load on to our carbohydrates. Here, half our plate are grains and carbohydrates. You can still have plenty of vegetables. You could even have vegetables on the side. Core of the plate is lean protein. We have a little bit more fat here. If you notice, now we're up to 2 tablespoons of fat. And that's because you need more calories. This individual who is working really hard towards his endurance event, possibly racing, your calorie needs increase. And you can't always get it from eating more carbs. Sometimes we just need to add more fat to ensure that we're getting enough calories. All right, so we're going to just talk about specifically exercise fueling before you actually start exercising, before you go out for your bike ride. So this goal right here applies to both when you are going to be training in the morning or you're going out for a weekend ride. So we have two distinct periods. It might be less than 60 minutes before you go out to ride or exercise, or maybe you're going to eat 1 to 4 hours before you exercise. So an example would be is you're going out for a 6 a.m. training ride. Chances are you're not going to wake up at 4 o'clock and have a nice breakfast. You might be rolling out of bed, at 5 o'clock or so. And I'll talk about what you want to put into your body at that period. So this is less than 60 minutes before you actually ride. But let's say you want to do your training after work. So you can have that luxury of eating 1 to 4 hours before you go out to ride. So what are you going to eat? So as I mentioned, this all depends upon your practicality and your scheduling. So if you're going to exercise, we'll start with the one below. Before exercise, you have only 60 minutes. You're getting up first thing in the morning, 5 a.m. to go to a 6 a.m. training ride. What I suggest is you have 30 grams of quick digesting carbohydrates. So low fiber, maybe it'll be a piece of fruit, something easy to digest, something where you're not going to get a stomach upset. Now, if you have more time, the way we figure out how many grams of carbohydrates is the amount of time you have between eating and exercising. So if it's 2 hours, let's say I'm doing an exercise, I'm training after work, and I'm going to train at 6 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock, I'm going to have my snack. So what I want to consume, 4 hours, it's going to be at 4 o'clock, it's 2 grams per kilogram. So of carbohydrates. So just to reiterate, I'm going to exercise at 6 p.m. I'm going to eat a snack at 4 p.m. That's 2 hour difference between my eating and exercise. So that means I'm going to consume 2 grams per kilogram of carbohydrates. So I have to calculate my weight in kilograms, multiply it by 2, and then I know how many grams of carbohydrates I should be eating. So again, what you also want to do is you want to experiment. So let's say you have an important event that you want to ride or run, or you're doing a race. So make sure this plan, the carbohydrate, the pre-fueling exercise plan, you practice it multiple times. You don't want to do it on your big event day because you might find whatever you're consuming gives you a stomach upset. Another thing is, I talked about fiber. Quite often, we want to look for low fiber foods right before we exercise because it might give us stomach upset. So examples of these quick digesting carbohydrates could be applesauce, a fruit puree, smoothie, maybe dried fruit, maybe some pretzels. And some people like to use sports drinks or gels or energy chews. So those are all options, things to have before you exercise. And that's 60 minutes before. Now, if you're going to be exercising 1 to 4 hours beforehand, then you're going to have carbohydrate, and you can also have a little protein. You want it to be a lean protein. So it could be a sandwich, 2 pieces of whole wheat bread, full grain bread, lean protein filling, maybe some hummus. Maybe you'll have some pasta, rice, amaranth, and some beans. Maybe some cooked or dried cereal with some low-fat dairy. Maybe yogurt with fruit. Anything that your stomach will tolerate. So again, practice, practice, practice. All right, so now we're going to talk about during exercise. So again, we have a variety variety of different situations. So let's say you're going out and doing your training ride, which is probably like 45 minutes to 60 minutes. You don't need to add any carbohydrates. That's not necessary. You can just have water. That'll be fine. Now, if you're exercising between 45 to 75 minutes, or maybe even 90 minutes, you can, if you want, have 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. Now, there have been studies that show that people who even just, let's say, having a carbohydrate drink, and there's a sweetness in there, they found that people who had that drink, they put it in their mouth, but then spit it out, like a mouth rinse, had a similar response to those who actually just consumed it. Not saying that you should drink your energy drink and spit it out, but it just goes to show that there is something else going on in our brain. And when we do consume these carbohydrates, it does provide a positive response. Now, if we're going to be riding an hour to 2.5 hours, so this is, it could be a SIG ride, it could be a long training ride, consume about 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. And this could be in the form of food or gels or carbohydrate drinks, and we'll talk about that next. And if you're going to be going out for more than 2.5 to 3 hours, and that, a lot of the SIG rides are way more than that. The recommendation is 30 to 60 grams per hour, and you can go up as high as 90 grams per hour if your stomach can tolerate it. So not everybody can tolerate that many carbs, but if you can, you're actually at an advantage. So the more carbs you consume per hour, the better you're going to feel, and the less a chance you'll have that you're going to bonk. So during exercise, we have several things that we could use. We could use carbohydrate replacement drinks. I use something called Endurance First, and I find that makes me feel good. It works for me. Everybody likes different drinks. You could just have water and then have something in addition to the water to give you the carbs. So it might be some sort of a bar or a goo or a gel. Or you could actually have real food. Like here you see a picture of a banana. So a large banana is about 30 grams of carbs right there. Some people like to carry around figs. But again, it has to be something that you can tolerate. Now, after the ride, what do we do now? So we get home and we have to just refuel. We have to replenish our glycogen stores. So what do we want to do? First, we want to have some carbohydrates. And how many carbs? In this case, it's 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram per hour for every hour for the first 4 hours. So that's actually a lot of food. So generally, we're not going to do this after our training rides during the week. After your training ride during the week, you might just have a regular breakfast. That's fine. But this is really important after a long SIG ride because you expended a lot of calories. You did not replace all the calories that you expended while you're riding, and you shouldn't either. But after those long rides, and particularly if you're going to be doing back-to-back riding, or for example, if you're going to do a race or 2 training events in one day, so in the morning and at night, this is when you want to consider making sure you have enough carbs in between. So what you might want to do is you're going to calculate how many grams of carbs per kilogram of weight per hour. You have that every hour for the first 4 hours. So yeah, you're going to be eating a lot. And then after 4 hours, you just resume how you might typically eat. So you might be doing a lot of snacks during that time period. You also need to include protein at this point, and that's really important for muscle repair. So you want 10 to 20 grams of high quality protein, again, within that 1 to 3 hours after exercise. So what do you want to eat? What can we eat? Well, first of all, as I mentioned, it's really important if you're doing 2 events in one day or racing back-to-back days, or maybe you have some sort of special event that you're riding, that's 2 days in a row. We're doing this to recover our muscle tissues and replenish our energy stores. As I mentioned, 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram per hour of carbohydrates. Making sure you have that high quality protein. And of course, it depends upon your weight, how much you're going to eat. But examples could be maybe a sandwich with whole wheat bread and a lean protein, maybe a rice bowl with some beans, cheese, avocado, veggies. Sometimes, some people complain they don't have an appetite after they ride. So if that's the case, you might want to have some liquid food. So that could be a smoothie, or there are special recovery drinks. Maybe you'll make a blend of a smoothie with some low-fat milk, some plain yogurt, some fruit. And then there's always chocolate milk. So there are studies out there that have shown that chocolate milk is the perfect recovery drink because it has the right ratio of carbs to protein. And talking about hydration, you want to start your day, your exercise, well hydrated. So before you even go out, you want to make sure that you're drinking. If you're going to ride in the morning, make sure you have enough fluid at night. Maybe if you end up waking up in the middle of the night, have a little bit of water. So you want to make sure your urine is about like a clear to pale yellow color, and that will help determine if you're hydrated properly. If it's a dark color, you're dehydrated. And if you're dehydrated, that's going to impact the performance. So if you're exercising for 60 to 90 minutes, all you need is water. So for those training rides you're doing in the morning in Central Park or Prospect Park or wherever you might be riding, you probably just need water. If it gets really hot out, maybe you'll add some electrolytes to your water, but you don't need carbohydrates. Now, if you're exercising for greater than 90 minutes, it might be advantageous to have a drink that contains carbohydrates and electrolytes. And why is that? Studies have found that when you have one of these hydration drinks, and specifically the ones that have carbohydrates in it, they will delay fatigue, so help you not bog. They may enhance your performance, so maybe you can ride faster, ride longer. They also may improve palatability, so you might end up drinking more if there's some flavor in your water. It promotes fluid retention. So that's really important for the next point. It prevents hyponatremia. So there have been cases, in fact, even in the Cycle Club, of people drinking too much water and having hyponatremia, which is very dangerous. That's low sodium. So your sodium gets diluted in your bloodstream, and you could pass out and end up in the hospital and have real serious issues. So that's another really good reason why we suggest having a hydration drink with carbohydrates in it. Studies recommend that the percentage of carbs in the drink should be 4 to 8%. So most of those pre-made sports drinks are in that range. So like what I have is called EFS by Endurance First. But there are a lot of other drinks out there. You have to drink what feels right for you. So test drinks out. For example, there's Gatorade. I cannot tolerate Gatorade. And there's other drinks out there that people rave about and I've tried and they don't work for me. So, try what's best for you. Now, there's also some studies that show that maybe a carbohydrate plus protein drink could help improve endurance, but again, that's questionable. But it's something you can try. Again, it's all trial and error. A little bit more, as I mentioned, experiment on what to drink. And a big question is, well, how much should you drink? So you'll go out on these rides and you'll see some people drinking multiple bottles of water, and then you'll see other people who will barely finish one bottle of water. Well, what you really should do is you should determine your hourly sweat rate. And this will tell you how much fluid you should be consuming. So how do we do that? Well, first thing you want to do, and this is a great thing to do before one of your training rides, weigh yourself before you go out on your training ride, and make sure no clothes on, and just you get your weight, and then you're going to do your training ride, and then you're going to weigh yourself at 1 hour. Let's say it's an hour training ride. You're going to weigh yourself after that hour workout. Again, no clothes on, and you'll get your weight. Now, so for each pound of weight you lose, your fluid shortfall is going to be about 16 ounces, so about 2 cups. So for example, if you lose a pound within that 1 hour bike ride, you sweat it away around 16 ounces. Now, what you need to do also is measure how much fluid you consume during your workout. So you have your water bottle, measure how much water is in there before you put it into the water bottle. And then when you come back, measure how much is left in that water bottle. And now you'll know how much you drank. So let's say I drank 16 ounces during my 1 hour workout. Then what I want to do is I'm going to add in the amount of weight that I lost, the 16 ounces. And that's going to tell me my hourly sweat rate is 32 ounces. And that means I'm going to need to consume, I want to make up for that, I'm going to consume about 8 ounces of fluid every 15 minutes. Now, this sweat rate is going to change based on a lot of different things. Like when it gets really hot outside, summertime, it's like 80 degrees out, your sweat rate is going to probably be higher. And when it's really cold out, it's going to be different. So you might be doing this test multiple times during the year. Also, you might want to do it if you do indoor training. Your sweat rate is going to be a lot different indoors than outdoors. So you have a lot of different places and opportunities to do the training, to test your sweat rate. Now, I added this one in, alcohol and recovery, because a lot of people ask me about, well, what about alcohol? Does that help my recovery? Well, it might mentally make you feel better, but it doesn't necessarily help with recovery. So, a beer after a ride, this is a very common thing that we might be doing is, we did a long ride, on the weekend, we'll have a beer together. If I'm not doing a big ride the next day, or I'm not racing, that's probably not going to be too bad. But you have to remember that it does reduce your muscle glycogen synthesis. It might reduce your cognitive function the next day. It might interfere with your sleep. It reduces protein synthesis, and studies have found it reduces upper body power as well as peak power. So if you're really looking to improve your muscles, improve recovery, the alcohol after your drink might not help, but I'm not going to say don't drink. That's something that people do have fun doing. And I just want to give credit to the slide. If you look at upper right hand corner and I can't even pronounce the doctor, sports doctor, he has some excellent resources in sports nutrition, always looking at the latest studies. So it's a really good resource for you. So in summary, we start with that healthy base. So as I said, lots of fruits and vegetables, because anti-inflammatory, you want to reduce inflammation. Whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, that's where we start. We want to make sure we're consuming carbohydrates before we exercise. That's going to give us our fuel to get us going. And then while we're exercising, if we're going to exercise more than 90 minutes, carbohydrates are going to be extremely important to keep us from bonking, from feeling strong, for having the energy to get up those hills, to keep up with people. It's you'll be amazed at how much better you feel when you start consuming carbohydrates during exercise. And then for recovery, when you're done with your ride, you'll have some carbohydrates plus protein. And that's going to also make you feel better. It's not necessary if you're not doing back-to-back events or something in the morning, something at night, but it will make you feel better. Stay hydrated. Again, you want to stay hydrated. It's going to help with your performance. It will help with feeling how alert you are. It helps with muscles. It'll keep you from cramping. And lastly, have fun. We're doing the SIG. We're having it. Hopefully, I hope everybody's having a good time with SIG. And all this is to if you eat well, you're going to feel strong, and you're going to have a good day. You will have a great experience, and you'll perform well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up to questions, and we'll look in the chat box. See what we have here. All right, so a bunch of questions here. I'm going to go through the questions, and then people, maybe the best thing would be to put your questions in the chat box. I'll go through these. So the first question is, will I be sending out an outline at the end, or do we need to take notes? So if you want a copy of the slides, I'd be very happy to send them to you. But please just shoot me an email. So my email address is over here, Reyna@reynafranco.com. So that's, I'll send you the slides at some point. All right, the next question. Will you cover tips for vegans? So absolutely. Everything we talked about today certainly applies to somebody who doesn't eat dairy or eggs or any meat products. I mean, it's fabulous. So I'm actually working on creating, you saw those plates. I'm working on a vegan plate right now. I have it very close to being finished. So if there's anybody who is interested in that, shoot me an email and I'll send them what I have so far. And you'll see the vegan plate. What's a good example of a 30-gram quick digesting carb before a morning training run? So a half a cup of fruit is about 15 grams of carbs. So 1 cup of fruit could be an example. Pick a lower fiber fruit, maybe something out the skin. If you like dairy products like yogurt, that could be something too. The yogurt could work for you. White bread is 1 slice of white bread is low in fiber and easy to digest. That's 15 grams of carbs. Now, I can hear you screaming at me, Reyna, white bread, you're telling me white bread? Well, that's what I also screamed at myself when I was learning about sports nutrition. But what happens is you have that piece of white bread or white rice immediately before you exercise, and it's used for energy immediately. So it's okay. If you could tolerate whole wheat bread before you exercise, that's fine too. But it's okay to have these white bread products when we're exercising, so our body uses it immediately for energy. Okay, can you drink chocolate milk on your ride? Well, I mean, you could, but it might give you a stomach ache. If it doesn't give you a stomach ache, you can. Coconut water. So coconut water doesn't have the same amount of electrolytes as a lot of these, like Noon is an example, and UU, and a lot of these other electrolyte tablets out there that has a better balance for sports, for doing sports. I mean, you can have coconut water, but there are other options too that might be a little bit more specific for sports nutrition. I also notice if I drink too much water, I get cramps in my lower abdomen. Yes, so again, too much of anything is no good too. So if somebody over drinks, they could kind of like, I shouldn't say flooding their system, but yeah, it might be too much at once and it could be very uncomfortable. I didn't hear anything about eggs. Is that a good breakfast? So eggs is a great protein. So you don't need protein before you exercise. However, if you want eggs, you certainly can have them. Eggs are, like I said, great protein. Have for breakfast, have for lunch, dinner, a snack. A little response to Sophie. That happens to me when I drink electrolyte mixes that use artificial sugar. So that's a really good point. Interesting thing about artificial sugars, they're the ones that are sugar alcohols that end in OL. They can cause horrible stomach cramps or gas, or they can be really nasty. In general, I don't recommend artificial sweeteners. Kara suggested she switched to endurance options that use real sugar. Yes. So sugar while you're exercising is fine. We need that sugar. As I talked about the white bread, we're going to use that sugar as energy. The noon tablets leave a bad taste in my mouth. So yes, they're all different types of electrolyte drinks and tablets and additives. Try what works best for you. What contributes to cramping in legs and what is best to do to minimize the chances happening? Well, there are a lot of studies about cramping, and there's a lot of different possibilities. Number one is your fitness level. So that for many people is actually why they're cramping. It's not necessarily because they're not drinking enough, they don't have enough electrolytes. It's just the fitness level. That's number one. Number two, it can be electrolytes. It could be you're not having enough sodium. Maybe you need more sodium. Maybe you need more calcium, magnesium and potassium, and the other two electrolytes. So that's where those electrolyte drinks might be helpful. It could be that you're not consuming enough carbohydrates. That also can contribute to cramping. So there are a lot of different things that might be going on if a person's cramping. Number one, make sure you have the fitness. And if you know you have that fitness, then we work on, maybe trying the electrolytes, making sure you're consuming enough carbohydrates. All right. What is the hydration supplement you refer to? So the couple, like I mentioned, I use something, it's a carbohydrate drink called EFS by Endurance First. And I use that because it doesn't give me stomach upset. I have a weak stomach. And I also find that it's useful for a lot of my clients who do have stomach issues. But as I said, there are a lot of other products out there, and just experiment. There's a person who loves Noon. So that's just electrolytes. Noon is electrolyte tablet, and it doesn't have any carbohydrates in it. Why don't you like Gatorade? I dilute it 50-50. I don't like it because it gives me a stomach ache. And if you dilute Gatorade has the perfect amount of carbohydrates in it as it is, the regular Gatorade. If you dilute it, what happens is you're reducing the carbs. So what I would suggest, if you're diluting Gatorade because you don't like it full strength, maybe try something else that you prefer, that you can consume full strength, that will give you the right amount of carbohydrates. Yes, repeat the brand, electrolyte mix. Yes, that's the one, First Endurance EFS. And they have a couple different forms. They have the regular EFS, and they have something I think called EFS Pro. I tried both. I don't really, physically, I didn't feel a difference. But as I said, I could tolerate them. What do you think of SIS gels, which are more liquid than Hammer or other gels? So that's a really good point. So gels, some of them are thicker, some are more liquid. What you want to look for in any of these gels or goos or blocks or you want two different types of sugars, because the two different types of sugars are metabolized differently in different rates in our body, and it will give you more sustained energy. So SIS is a good product. It's more liquid, so if you prefer that, that's fine. So that's just about a consistency. It's not that it's better or worse than something that's thicker. In all cases, whenever you have a goo or a gel or a chew, you must consume it with water. The reason for that is the carbs are so condensed that if you just have the goo, the gel, the chew without water, you might end up having stomach upset. I actually, unfortunately, experienced that in a race recently where I timed my nutrition improperly and I needed something. I was past the water station and I desperately needed my carbohydrate. I took my gel and I consumed it, hoping there was a water station coming up soon, and there wasn't. And I felt it in my stomach. So, we all make mistakes. Are you able to recommend electrolyte tablets? So I mentioned the Noon. Hammer makes a bunch of them. If you go online, there are so many different types. You could go. I like going to Jackrabbit because it's close by where I live, and they have a lot of different options. Just displayed, and you can see what they have. Cramping is mainly because of your fitness. So true, but I never thought about it. Yeah, I feel like, I remember, the beginning of the season going up when you're coming home from bike ride, on Hudson Terrace, and you have that hill going up. And, if I'm with a bunch of friends who are trying to hammer up the hill and I try to hammer and I'm going halfway up and then, ouch, I start cramping. And it's because I'm not fit. It's early in the season. I thought leg cramping had to do with not enough hydration. Not at all true. It has something to do with it, but it's not the whole picture. There's a whole big picture involved in cramping. It might be hydration, it might not be. So it all depends upon that individual. Okay, Noon Endurance line has cane sugar. Well, powder only, no tablet. That's okay. I guess we'd have to see how much carbs are in that particular Noon. Can you share a list of energy snacks electrolytes to take on bike rides? I guess I need to find the right mix or try to find something I like that are quick to grab from your bag while you ride. I find I need the energy in the return ride, and I don't want lunch to slow me down or make me sleepy. Yeah, that's really important. So I keep in my bag things that I like. I like goos, so I can stomach them. So I have goos, and I'll have that while I'm riding. Might stop at a red light. I'll quickly get it and have the goo, and I'll eat it. Or maybe at some point, somebody is taking a jacket off. I might have it then. The other thing I like, and this again is personal preference, I like Cliff Bars. So there might be a break during the ride, and I'll eat half a Cliff Bar. So way to think about goos versus Cliff Bars or more solid food is that food is going to give that instant energy. If you have solid food or bars, the energy is not going to kick in right away, but you'll have, a steady stream of energy. What do you think about DIY energy bike recipes? I see them online. I want something portable, but the prepackaged stuff can add up in cost. Yeah, there's some great recipes out there. There is, what's the name of that book? I have it. I'm so sorry. I'm sure somebody could put it in the chat box. The Feed Zone, that's it. The Feed Zone. Fabulous book, has great recipes for both, to bring with you for before exercise, after exercise. I recommend that. How important is after training nutrition? Is there a time after which it will have limited benefit? It's only important if, let's say I'm doing a training ride in the morning and then I'm doing a running race at night. or like I'm training for a triathlon, I'm doing, my running in the morning and swimming at night. That might be, but it'll be important for me to replenish my glycogen stores after an hour, within an hour of my morning exercise. Or if I'm doing, 2 races, a race on Saturday, a race on Monday. Again, then it's important. But, let's say like this weekend, I'm going to do my bike ride, and the following Saturday, I'm going to go out for an easy run. I don't really have to worry too much about my, recovery nutrition. And yes, and someone put into the chat box, the Feed Zone cookbook. Definitely recommend that. So I'll put into the chat box too. You should see it over here. I'll give you another email address if you have any other questions, or you want the slides, or you want to schedule an appointment. So I do see patients privately, my clients privately, right now just virtually. So it's really easy. And if you want to meet with me one-on-one, you can send me an email. I also take insurance. So if you do have insurance, it's possible that your insurance will cover for the nutrition session. So any last questions? Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Great to virtually see you. I look forward to seeing you all on the bicycle, and ride well, ride safe, and have fun.
Thank you.